Yo, what's poppy? So I'm gonna try my hand at a Coach of the Year tier list. So we'll see how this goes. I'm doing a new format where I just start with D tier, then C tier, then B, then A, instead of just dragging randomly. Like normally I'd go like, oh, boom, and then boom or whatever. You know what I mean? But anyway, new format. So let me know if you like it. But this is also gonna be very weird because it's very hard to tell what is coaches and what is players and like what's going on behind the scenes, stuff like that. But one thing I can say for sure is that Supreme is the worst coach in the league. The embarrassment of riches that the Washington Justice have as of right now, had maybe by the time this goes up, it is honestly just crazy. You look at this team and what they've had for half the season. They've had Decay, Happy, Mag, Krillin, Opener, Vigilante, Assassin, right? And Kalios. You see that team, you see the results, something's not right. Supreme has been on this in this franchise for so long, got nothing done, and he's still there. And his team just looks awful. They never improve. It's the same problems every year. It's unreal that he still has a job, and that he even is this is his life. I can't. He is the reason that I hate the Washington Justice. Straight up, right? I think he has to be the worst coach in the league. Just look at his quality of players, man, and look at how this team has performed. It's just not adding up. Supreme, bottom line, it's got to be the worst coach in this league. He has to be. Coming in under that is J-Max. So this is kind of hard to say because Paris definitely had some of the lower level talent in this league, but they still don't look good, right? They didn't look good. New roster and all that. I think it's still J-Mac coach. We'll see how they turn out. But the level of improvement that, say, a team like the Vancouver Titans have had, who's also been in the same situation, or even the New York Excelsior. Paris haven't had that. They have not had that same level of improvement throughout the entire season. I don't know if it's his decision or whose decision it was to get rid of players like Naga. You got to think that the coach has some say in that. But I'm going to try not to put in roster decisions too much because those could have different circumstances. But anyway, just because of how poorly this team has actually improved throughout the season, despite being the worst team should be able to improve the best. And they're not, right? They have so much to work on, to improve on, and they're not improving. That's why I think J-Mac has to be second worst, just because there's been nothing there. I don't expect a lot from Paris, but I expect at least more than this. And then the other D tier is kind of going to be for a similar reason. It's going to be Sungwoo. Charge really did not feel like they had any consistency. They didn't improve very much either. Their entire strategy was just choice A1 carry. Do it all yourself. Sometimes you saw Develop do things. Sometimes you'd see Faraway do things. I am looking forward, now that this roster should be a bit better, to see them move forward. But it's kind of it's the same level as Paris. But I'll give him a little bit of a pass because Choice A1 basically is the only reason. So that's gonna be my D tier. So moving on to C tier. Going to go with Lori. So I actually had Lori in D tier for a bit, but then I was like, no, these guys are so bad. So my problem with Lori, Itzel playing. Okay. The original mismanagement and the kickoff clash between your three tanks, and that continued really by playing Itzel. Your weird Sigma May rush that didn't make any sense, that was played often, and that's it basically. Those are my biggest gripes with Laurie as a coach so far this season that I can see visually. Boston have become better as it's gone on, right? They have gotten better, but because of those decisions and because of how long they went on, when it was so obvious, at least from the fan viewing perspective, that these were just poor decisions. That's why Laurie's going C tier. Definitely can improve as the season goes on. Boston look better, but C tier for those decisions. Next up is going to be Undyne. So New York looked very bad for a long time. 0 main supports and then 3 flex supports. Now you have Antoon J. I don't know if that's so much if I'm Undyne, I'm banging down the New York Excelsior headquarters, begging for a main support for the entire season. Um, he gets it. The team did look better, and my biggest problem with Undyne is how long it took to get Gangnam Jin onto his characters in the Midseason Madness whenever they really should have been on them more often. There was no reason to not run double flex support until they did, and they look good doing it. So that's why he stays. That's why he barely makes it out of D tier, because he eventually made the changes that were reasonable and look good, but it took so long to get there. And this team can still has some issues. Like, they look good this meta, but I'm not including this meta right now because that's not really fair. Because I was doing all the other ones before, so I want to get this one here done now. But I would have liked to see a bit more. That movement needed to be faster. That issues with your tank line, with your back line, needed to be addressed faster. And that's why Undyne's going to be C tier. So next C tier is going to be Yang1. So Yang1 only really had this stage, right? He didn't have kickoff clash to do what he wanted to do. He comes at this stage, and I don't know if he was actually there week 1. I don't know that, but they basically didn't change their meta at all. They stuck to what the old meta was. Hisu wasn't even on the Sojourn, which was very, very shocking, right? And then they come in. Finale Echo also, week 1, which was also very bad, although not getting any playtime for some reason. All these different things. The decision to put Muse on Zarya and just play him into Houston wherever Hoppa was doing things, it boggles my mind. And some of the decisions, you just look at Toronto and you go, why? So, I don't know. I hate Muse on Zarya. Boggles my mind. Although not getting any playtime, don't understand it totally either. And the problem with Toronto was just like they're more of a copy team, or they historically have been more of a copy team. They see what teams are playing, they try to run it back, normally at a worse level of success, and that's why they get so mid. In the Midseason Madness, I didn't see that changing with Yang1. Now, in the Summer Showdown, they do look better, so Yang1 may go up the rankings after this. But for the Midseason Madness, for the limited sample size we have of Yang1, wasn't inspirational. However, this is a new coach with a new team, basically. I cut him a little bit of slack, but still going to be C tier. Above him is, unfortunately, NoHill. NoHill trying to do too much, I think. You saw it in the kickoff clash. They had some cool strategies with the Mei. They were looking pretty decent, running the Zarya full time, all that stuff. He was working with what he had. He gets more tools. He gets Marvel. He gets Molly. He gets the tools he was looking for to play with. But he doesn't actually play with them effectively. A little bit too much. You have EasyHan being your Sojourn player and Dia on the bench coming in for Widowmaker and stuff. Marvel looks fantastic on the Doomfist, but you're opting to put in Saucin anyway in his meta that Zarya doesn't really favor. And especially not a player that can't swap off of it. Just he really felt like he wanted to do everything, and so his team didn't do anything, is what it was to me. And he needs to tone it down a little bit because his ideas are great, but he needs to hone in on what he wants to do, the wacky things he wants his team to actually try and work on, and hone that in, really figure it out, and then go for it. Because right now there's too much going on, too many moving parts. The machine is breaking down, and NoHill is unfortunately going to be C tier for me right now. But I don't know. He needs someone to stop him. He needs someone to hold him back, I think. And so the final member of C tier is going to be Gunva. Florida Mayhem kind of struggled a bit. So they had that one play style where they were like, "Oh, Sermajet and kickoff clash." I like that. That was a decent look. Coming to Midseason Madness, that identity is gone because it can't work the same. And now you get Rupal instead of Kariv. Sure, whatever. He's on the coaching staff too. And that's another thing with this, actually. Small tangent. Only the head coach can win. So even though it's all the coaching staffs, right? Because there's Moby Dick on Toronto, there's McGravy on Florida, you get Unter on the Gladiators, but only the head coach can win Coach of the Year. So that's why their names are here. But anyway, it felt like they really didn't know what they wanted to do for a long time. There was times where someone was going too aggressive. He was switching characters every other fight, and just didn't really have an identity. Now, as of right now, they've found that identity. It's very hard aggression with someone. There's still aggression there with Sermajed when he comes in, but mostly it is someone leading the charge. They figured out they're not sending him on too many different missions. They were deciding between Hydron and Xe. They decided on Xe. That's fine. But it was there was too much. It was similar to NoHill in a way, but not quite that extreme, because there wasn't as many parts moving around. But there was still the Xe Hydron debate, the character swapping. I don't know, and I think they've honed it in a bit, and they have figured out what they wanted more. But I don't feel confident saying Gunva is B tier right now with what we've seen. So I think C tier is pretty good. And so now I'm going to pause real quick. Hold on. Okay, so I had to move my camera because B tier has 7 people in it. So starting off with Deepay actually. So Deepay, with what he's worked with, it's been pretty damn good, I think is safe to say. The Shockwave decision, I don't know if it's on him. Who knows what that was. But it doesn't seem horrible right now. Vancouver seemed to be on the come up. And with the limited tools he had for this midseason madness, we saw a big improvement from Vancouver. We thought they could maybe get their first win against Washington. Wasn't quite as it turned out. But because we saw that improvement from a team that was very, very bad, tells me that Deepay has to at least be mid. Because I'm only doing midseason madness so they wouldn't have their first win. The other one was against Paris, so it's not that. That's not all that. That's not crazy. But the improvement that the Vancouver Titans has steadily been showing, I have to credit to Deepay. It's a huge difference compared to what was happening with Pew and Flubby or whatever. Deepay all the way. He's doing it all himself. He's been going through it. If you saw his Twitter, they ain't feeding him, bro. He ain't getting his bag. Somewhat, he's doing work for this team. You have to treat him right. I think Deepay's been great. I think he's been mid at least. Could be higher, but it's hard to tell with the Vancouver Titans. So I'm gonna go with B tier. So above him though, it's gonna be Yauxi. So my thing with Chengdu is I can't really point out any major coaching errors. I can't be like, this is happening or this is happening, and why is this going on? It's more of like this team as a whole is just not, it's just a step behind the rest of APAC right now. So Yauxi, my thing is like, I'm not seeing anything exceptional from him. It's looking good. You made Jinmu into a better player. Now, how much of Jinmu being better at Tracer is Yauxi and how much is just Jinmu being Jinmu? Unknown. But I'm attributing a bit more to Jinmu. But he's kind of made this weird role swap from leave from a Flex CPS god over to the hit scan full time. This stuff like that. Gaga being full-time in, looking great on the Winston and the ball, and deciding when to play and things like that. I'm attributing that to him, and I think he's been solid, but not next level, not like, I don't see any huge ideas coming from him that make me think, damn, that was a good coaching decision. And that kind of comes with small rosters. You can't really make a whole bunch of mistakes with their players, which is what we've seen a lot of these other coaches like have points of criticism for me. Like almost all of them, it's been like, what's going on with your player rotation? Yauxi can't have that problem, but he hasn't shown anything else. So that's why I'm going to put him B for now. Next is actually going to be Coach Moon. So this one's kind of hard because you look and you're like, well, Shanghai as a team is underperforming, which you can give that to Moon, but Moon has been like one of the best coaches in the league historically. And you see him identify the issues like, oh, Void can't be played, so we're going to play Fate full time. Things like that. Or, oh, Fleta is actually not good in this meta. We're going to put in Who Are You, which is maybe not what people want to see, but I think it's better. So you see him go against the grain there, and he's making the right decisions as far as I can tell. Now, the reason I have him in B is because his team still isn't performing as good as they should. There's still something inconsistent going on there. And I feel like Moon's, or at least the Shanghai Dragons, maybe not Moon's, but the Shanghai Dragons' grasp of 5v5 still is not where you'd like it to be with the quality of these players that we've seen them be last season, seasons prior, all that. It's still not there. Fate still looks lost at times with a Void. Void can't even play the game, basically, unless he's on Circuit Royale, which I think there's a thing between trying to decide, oh, we can't play Void at all, saying Void's not really viable for this roster, and trying to fix that versus just putting it away into a box. He chose to put it into a box. I think if he's maybe okay, this could be an unrealistic ask, but I'm thinking if you can make Void like into a player that can play 5v5, which is like kind of changing his personality. So maybe that's unrealistic. That would be S tier coach level right now. Um, I think this roster, and maybe to an extent Moon, underwhelming for 5v5 Overwatch. That's why I'm going to have to put Moon B right now. It doesn't feel like Shanghai is winning based on their strategies. The strategies feel a little off. And I'm going to put Moon in B as a result. I can see the A tier thought process. If you say, oh, well, he's identified their issues, he's tried to solve them the best he can. That's what a good coach does. I see that vision. I'm choosing to put him in B, though. So above him is going to be Junkbox. So Junkbox, another solid coach. Like, these are solid coaches. But the thing about Junkbox is Houston's whole strategy in the midseason madness was we peel, basically. There was much less aggression. Because before Kickoff Clash was aggression. We int. We go crazy. He turned it back. He basically 180 and said, we're going to peel heavy now. And it works against teams that you're better than. But whenever you get to teams like Gladiators, like Atlanta, like Shock, it doesn't work. And that's because they're so efficient with their strategies of how quick they kill the backline. You can't peel effectively and hope to get more value out of it. And it's kind of like, it's like, oh, if that worked, he would have been an S tier coach, basically. But because it doesn't work, and it didn't really look like it was going to work, and they continued to do it, I'm like, well, that's a good strategy, but it was maybe too defaulted. It's smart that you're trying to work around Dante being this Doomfist, like, god, almost. I'm not going to call it, like, you know what I mean? And you're making pretty specific strategies. No one was really doing it like Houston were. But they weren't finding the success I think they could have. It was successful for Houston standards, but I think the scalability of it really failed for Junkbox, and that's why he's going to B tier. But very close to A tier. Isn't like, if it works a little bit better against some of the better teams, that's an A tier. But because it was like, it wasn't a winning strategy, it was a not losing strategy, kind of. If that makes any sense. So next is going to be Rush. So Rush is maybe a bit higher than you'd think, but because, like, hear me out. So Kickoff Clash, phenomenal work. You basically made the best Zarya comp in the game. You took them a ways. Looks great. Midseason Madness comes around. You are playing Guerrero full time. That's a big error right there. So to compensate for that, you play more Lucio. And you try and rely on Fearless and Sparkle to win. Now, there's that, or there is ditch Guerrero completely, which I don't think he wanted to do. I think he was hoping that Guerrero, because right, the rumors are, oh, Guerrero is not good on stage, things like that. And they wanted him to get over that, and they were like, well, the team is better off in the long run if Guerrero is able to perform better. And they believed in him. I'm not going to criticize that decision, but it didn't work out. Like, I understand making the decision. I think if you're Dallas Fuel, you were better off just saying, we're going to run with Edison, or we're going to go with Doha if you have to. And they seem to have pivoted, right? Not rating this on Summer Showdown, but they seem to have pivoted towards the forget about Guerrero thing. And I think that's reasonable because they gave him a full half season, basically, and he wasn't able to do it. So that's why Rush is B tier, because you can see what's going on here. I think you can see what he's thinking and like what he's doing with his roster and things like that. I don't know. It's hard because on one hand you're thinking about the longevity of the team going into the playoffs or the short term win the midseason madness. He chose the long term. That's not a problem. It's not an issue. But that's what he chose. It's going to be B tier. You can argue because of his thought process like that, you can put him A tier. The results look pretty bad, though, overall. Above him is going to be Sephe, who is also known as Selfless Brad. The thing with Atlanta, you can say, oh, it's player run. Yeah, but I still think he's making the correct decisions when he's playing Venom versus Nero. Hawk being in full time, I think, is a great decision that he's making. So you can see these decisions the play style of the team, working for the players, and he's very communicative. So that's like you can poke more holes in his coaching like arguments because he is like speaking about them very availably. He's being available to hear about it. I don't think it's as player run as people are saying. I definitely think that the strength of the team is in the players and not in the coaching. But I don't think he's a less than average coach. Now putting him above Rush looks very weird to me, but I think the results of the Atlanta Reign do kind of speak for themselves. I don't know. He's making the right decisions. He doesn't have to make a lot of decisions. Maybe that doesn't make him a bad coach. Maybe that's the kind of coach this team needs, right? You can think of it like that. Maybe he is the right fit for this team. So there's also that way to think about it. And that's how I'm going to choose to think about it. And that's why I think he is currently at least an average coach in the Overwatch League. And so my phone died, so I don't know who's up next. But if I was to guess, I think it's Jin. Yeah, it is. So, yeah, we have Jin. So he is going to be the top of B tier because I can't really poke anything into these arguments. You can say, oh, he was playing Carpe at the start instead of MN3. I don't hate that. I think it was okay at the start. I didn't think MN3 was really hitting his stride like he is now. Now, something that you can't criticize is this team is very one-dimensional. Your DPS win, and Bellisria wins, or you lose. There's no in-between. And sometimes they don't show up. Like against, after they beat the Spark, they go into Atlanta. They're just not there. They're just not there. Gone. And it's just like, how do you explain that? It's, to me, it looks like this is like they're one-trick ponies in a way. Like, you know exactly what's coming from Philly. And he's just trying to optimize that specific thing. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. It feels very much like Bellisria, DPS, go. You consistently have seen the same problems with Fixa, whether he be beating too early, beating too late. It's been consistent throughout the season. That hasn't been fixed. Aim God positioning still looks bad no matter what. I think there's a little bit of a lack of coaching there, but at the same time, it is kind of working to an extent. So it's hard for me to say that he's doing a poor job. But it's hard for me to say he's doing a good one either. That's why he's going to be B. It's hard because if you have the talent of Zest and MN3 and Bellisria, how can you not try and just commit everything to your damage line? Because you can't work on your backline. You can, but your backline's not going to win you games, not going to win you tournaments. MN3 and Zest playing good enough with Bellisria can win you a tournament. They just can. If Philly are able to maintain that consistency. But they just haven't been. So that's why it's going to be B tier. It's a high risk, high reward kind of thing. So going to A tier, I'm actually going to put Chongguon. So Chongguon, I was very worried as a Spark enjoyer of Chongguon coming over from the Seoul Dynasty. I was thinking, Seoul coaching has been a problem with them forever. I kind of like this now. You've seen, they had some issues in the first stage with Gushue just being not utilized correctly, not finding wins, really. And then you even gave up on him and you put Bernard on Diva. You were doing things like that. And it didn't look great. Coming into this mid-season madness stage, they really did fix these issues. Gushue was actually being utilized correctly. Bernard being fully fleshed out, making him get better at the ball, because you can see his ball as it progressed through the qualifiers. It was looking better. He was even on Doom a little bit. They kind of did away with that, but he was there. Utilizing basically all parts of the roster for one purpose, and that was for Shy to be the GOAT. They did it. If that was the goal, they accomplished it. Because Shy looks fantastic. The backline was playing very well. You would see them live and do so much work, underrated work on their team. And the whole strategy, the whole synergy of this team, yes, they still need Shy to pop off and basically be the best player to touch Sojourn or to touch Ash or whatever you want. But the rest of the team around him complemented that well. And I think Chongguon coaching, I'm kind of sold on it right now. I feel good about them heading into the summer showdown, and I think Chongguon has done a good job overall. You can't really fault him right now. He turned around the teams. He's identified the issues. He's made them he's identified the issues, and he made them benefits, I guess, as you could say. So yeah, I like Chongguon. So now Toby is actually going to be next. Yeah, Seoul Dynasty did struggle a bit in the midseason madness. Yeah, they juggled some their hit scan player, their Sojourn player around a bit too much, and it maybe hurt both of their development, or both of their, not development, but both of their gameplay. But the strategies they were enacting when they're deciding when to play the Sigma, deciding what they wanted to do when, things like that, and even in the kickoff clash, which cannot be ignored, Seoul Dynasty were just everywhere. They were able to play whatever you wanted. They were on Rush sometimes. They were on the Zarya. They were on everything, whenever you wanted, and they had a really good handle on the meta. It's hard to fault him right now. The only thing you can say is, oh, he's swapping around Stalker and Fitz too much. That's the biggest gripe I have with him, but I understand doing that for a stage. It's just it's unlucky that it's happened like that. I don't know. It's an okay strategy, but I just don't think it worked out. That's the only problem. So I think Toby's been great. I'm gonna stick him in A tier. And next at the top of A tier is actually gonna be Krusty. So you'll notice that I have left 2 S tiers, and one of them is Christopher, which I'll get on that. So Krusty, as much as Shock is just proper go do things, the innovation with the Diva on Eichenwald basically solidified him in A tier for me, even if it's just proper do things, because he utilizes his roster very well. You'll see Violet go onto the flex support when he has to. You'll see Kaluj even on the Diva when he needs to be. And I think his decision making on when to play Sam or Kilo is good too. I like Krusty. Krusty's been a good coach forever. His team looks good. And as much as it is proper doing everything by himself, he's kind of leaned into it. Put Kaluj on the Diva. I like it. It looked good. No one really had answers to it until the LA Gladiators did, which is why you'll notice Face is above him. Yeah, who couldn't say no? So anyway, now it's S tier. I'm actually, it shouldn't be a surprise here that it's this. Now, it might be a surprise that it's Christopher, but the thing with this, the London Spitfire going into the season did not have expectations. And he shattered basically the perception. He made, like Hottie was already a good Undyne, but London are undoubtedly the best rush team. But then he also takes their underwhelming ball gameplay, and it looks good. It looks solid enough. No, they did not go far in the tournament. That is true. But I think what he's done with this team that had no expectations considers him, for me, a coach of the year. Because this team really is overachieving from what was believed. And you can decide that to be either an underrating of EU talent or Christopher doing well. Those are your 2 options. I'm choosing that Christopher making this team the best Ryan team for sure. The best, and having a solid ball out of nowhere. Going so far as to play it when they have to, or playing it more than their Reinhardt in playoff situations. This team is not just a rush one trick team. Christopher, I think, has outdone himself with this roster. No, they're not a top 5 team. But this is Coach of the Year. This is not a team power ranking, right? I think Christopher has really not made any major errors here. When can you think of a major error? If you point to Summer Showdown, their first match, that's not what the tier list is rating. So back it up, and then you'll realize I don't know if I pick anything out right now. They did have a shaky start at the beginning. They figured it out. I think Christopher's done great. And now S tier is going to be Face. Now you can look at this doesn't age well going into the next tournament. If the next cycle is a coaching diff. But I'm fully aware of that, and I'm thinking, look at that kickoff clash and tell me that the LA Gladiators did not have the best understanding of that meta ever, right? With the compositions they were playing, the Reinhardt, which no other team was doing for that basically entire cycle except for the Gladiator, except for the Spitfire. They brought it out. It looks fantastic. Their Doomfist, phenomenal. And the way that they play their entire gameplay around Kevster and make Kevster the centerpiece of this team, is great. And you can say, oh, that's because Shua is so good, but I would argue that recognizing that Shua lets that happen, lets the playstyle happen, is also a core piece about coaching. So, but also, what do I know? I haven't coached a team. I think that the results kind of speak for themselves. You don't get 2 accolade wins. You don't get 2 championship wins in a row by being a bad coach, by having a bad coach. This also doesn't understate Unter in any way because I think he's been great too. But yeah, so this is going to be it. Let me know your thoughts down below. Let me know how you think this is going to age going into the Summer Showdown because it doesn't look great right now, but whatever. Like this video, like it, subscribe for more daily Overwatch League content. Have yourself a good one, and thank you so much for watching. Deuces.